What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we have a Game Week 4 team selection video, and the big question is, what do we do with Son? So I've already actually made a transfer. I got in Vardy and I got rid of Timo Werner, and I was planning on taking this hit to get rid of Son and bring in a cheaper midfielder because there's really not too many good players at his price range. The closest is Mahrez. I would say the options for us to choose from are Mahrez, Trossard, Barnes, Zaha, and Souček. I would say it's between those five. Souček is more of a choice if you want to change the structure of your team. Now, for me and for others, you also have to decide, is it even worth getting rid of him? So if you've made another transfer like I have, which is probably not a smart move, but you have to consider, okay, do I just play somebody off the bench? Do I have a defender with a good matchup, or just somebody else that I want to play? Because it may not even be worth a transfer for this week. Now for me, I have Mitchell, who doesn't have a great matchup. I could just try playing him because, let's say I bring in Trossard against Everton. Do I really expect him to get 4 more points than Mitchell? I don't know. It's a higher upside pick, but is it really going to happen? Everton's a hard matchup. You have to take all that stuff into consideration. So far, it seems like most people in this situation are going for Harvey Barnes, and I think that's a good option. He's got the most shots per game out of these players. He's on Leicester, and he's a good way to get into their attack without having to get Vardy. The issue with him, and the reason that I probably won't be getting him in my team, is first of all, I already have Vardy. And the reason why I'm scared of this double up, because typically I don't have any issue with going with a double up, is that Leicester are in Europa League this season. And we've seen Europa League really harm teams in the past in terms of their quality of play in the EPL. We've seen it with Wolves, Burnley, and I think we also saw it with Leicester that one season. So with that in mind, I think the top 2 options for me are Mahrez and Trossard. Now, Mahrez is kind of a risky one because, yes, he's on a team that have both of their strikers hurt, so we would assume Mahrez would start most games. But he was very out of favor at the end of last season. He was benched multiple games back-to-back, even though he was well-rested. He just seemed to be out of favor. So that does sort of put me off playing him. He did look great the first match, and again, I would completely understand getting any of these players. I think that's why it's so hard to make this decision. Right now, I just haven't made it yet. But Mahrez is a good option. He does cost the most out of these, and I think that's the thing that's putting me off the most. I like just having the flexibility of having the extra money in the bank whenever I can't make a decision. I'll just go with the cheapest option a lot of times. It seems sort of the safe way to play it. Mahrez is a risk. I mean, he's played 1 game so far this season, and we just don't know that much about him. I know that he's the highest quality player of this bunch. He costs the most. He's on the best team. But what do we expect from him? We don't really know. So if you want to take the risk with high upside, I'd go Mahrez. So right now, my current favorite of the other options is Leandro Trossard. And the reason for that is, well, number one, Trossard loves to shoot. It doesn't matter if he just missed 3 shots in a row terribly. He will get the ball, turn, and shoot again. And he's not afraid to shoot in situations even where he's unlikely to score. With that said, he does have the highest expected assists of all these players so far this season, which is good. And the thing I like about Trossard this season compared to last season, because last season he did only have a goal or assist every 200 minutes, which is okay, but it's not great. This season, he's got potentially a better team around him. He's got Lamptey running down his right wing, which is where Trossard typically plays. He does drift to the left sometimes, though, or sometimes centrally. But with Lamptey more out wide, that gives the space for Trossard to sort of drift inside and maybe be in the box more. And hopefully some of these crosses will start falling to him more, because right now he's only had like 1 or 2 shots in the box all season. He typically shoots from right on the edge of the box, which is probably the worst thing about him. If you look at just the shots, you're like, oh, this guy takes a bunch of shots per game. But when you look at his expected goals and where he's shooting from, it's not the best. But the good thing is that I don't really expect that to continue. I do think that he will continue to take the shots from outside the box, but I think he'll get a couple more in the box. He has been unlucky. I think he should have scored more, even though he has outperformed his expected goals. If you watch his shots, yes, he hits some poor ones, but he's hit the post a couple times now, and I think he's a quality striker of the ball. I like him. He's not afraid to shoot. He's got good creativity. He's in an improved Brighton team, and he's only 6 million. So for me, Trossard is the one I'll go with right now. I just have to decide if it's worth the -4, and I think I'll probably just take the risk here and have some fun with it. I think that there's a solid chance of a return. The issue is it's Everton on the road, and they've just been so good defensively so far. So I don't really know what I'm going to do. Everton haven't came up against the best attacking opposition, and the West Brom red card and all that's happened. So they have been a little lucky so far. So maybe I'll take the risk, do a -4, and bring in Trossard. I'd say that's the most likely outcome at the moment. So the other options, we have Souček. Now the issue with Souček is he's a center defensive mid basically, and he gets forward, and the only way he's really going to get a return is scoring a header. He's not really going to get many assists unless he plays a pass to somebody, they go on a run, and then they score, and it's not really one where he created a big chance. So Souček's downfall is if there's a game where just the way the tactics set up, West Ham can't get crosses in, or Souček doesn't have time to get forward, then Souček doesn't really have a chance to score. But obviously the upside to Souček is he's only 5 million. So let's say you have Son and James. If you really wanted to, you could go Son all the way down to Souček, and then you could probably go James to De Bruyne or something like that if you wanted to do that. And that's something that could be very valuable. There's a lot of value in the high-priced midfielders. So Souček is a viable option. Don't feel weird with 5 million in your bank if that's what you want to do. Just because it feels weird doesn't mean it's wrong. So Souček could be an option here. It does have some tough fixtures though, so that's worth the mention. The other guy I've looked a lot into is Zaha. Zaha is playing more of a striker role this season, which I think will greatly improve his returns. I like that he's the talisman of Crystal Palace. He'll play 90 minutes every week. The question is he on penalties right now? Because Ayu's been their penalty taker last season, and Ayew took the first penalty that didn't technically count as a penalty because they had to redo it because De Gea stepped off his line after Ayew missed. Then Zaha took the penalty. Obviously, he scored, and Crystal Palace won. So will Zaha continue to take penalties? I sort of doubt it. He's the captain now of the team, so he could if he really wanted to. I'm not saying that wasn't the case last season. He could probably do whatever he wants in this Crystal Palace team because he's just so much better than they are. But Zaha's a quality player. He's not really the most creative because he looks to do the step overs and cut and shoot, and he likes to take shots that are often blocked. But when they do sneak through the defender's legs, it can be really tough for the goalkeeper. And I think that he's a good option. I just don't know how many goals Crystal Palace are going to score and how creative they're going to be offensively, and if he's going to get the service he needs to continually get goals. Again, we're just going to need a higher sample size from a lot of these players, and that's why it's tough to make a decision. But he's more expensive than Trossard, and he's also in a team that will probably score less goals. Crystal Palace had the lowest expected goals of any team last season, and they've only really signed Eze to make that difference up for them. So with Graham Potter doing well at Brighton, I think I do like Trossard more, but if Zaha's on penalties, that could change everything. So who knows? There are a lot of good options here at this price. As you can see, I'm fond of all these players pretty much. Any one's a solid option. You got to pick one. I wouldn't just not make a decision just because it's a tough decision. Go with one. Hey, there's been a lot of goals this season. Maybe they all do well. But for me right now, I think my favorite is Trossard. It's too tough to rank them, though. It's really too tough. I don't know who my second would be. Barnes, Zaha, Mahrez, they're all right there. So now that that's out of the way, and again, I'll probably bring in Trossard, but who knows? Maybe I throw in Mitchell for 1 week, and then I make my decision out of that group of players. So let's talk about captaincy. I'm going to probably just go with Mohamed Salah. In fact, I will go with Mohamed Salah. And my reason for this is because his name is Mohamed Salah. Now, you may be thinking, wow, that is some great analysis. I'm glad I watched this video. But the fact is, this man has defined normalized brilliance. He came in the league, scored over 30 goals. Since then, he's got over 20 and then 19. Each year, he's got double-digit assists. He plays for the best team in the league. And so far, there have been more away wins than home wins, and Liverpool are on the road to Aston Villa, so hopefully this trend will continue. This is a trend that we saw in the Bundesliga as well once fans were removed from games because of COVID. So I'm not too scared to captain a player away, even when it is Salah, and I've seen a lot of people sort of debunking the myths that he's worse on the road. I think he is better at home because it's a comfort thing for him, but that's a whole nother issue. It's Salah. The great thing about captaining him is I'd never really blame myself if he blanks. I'm like, oh, I captained Salah and he didn't score. That's his fault because he's just such a good player. So Salah captaincy because it's Salah. I think if I had De Bruyne, I would go De Bruyne over Salah this week because the matchup is better. If you do have Man City options this week, they could be really good because I sort of do expect Leeds to continue to hold a high line and really be aggressive in this game. And I think Leeds will get goals out of it, but Man City should get 3 or 4 if they do that. I personally think that teams should learn from what Leicester did against Man City last game and try to replicate that. Now, they may not be as good at it, Leicester, that sort of fits them perfectly, but just sitting deep in like a 5-4-1 where it's basically a 5-5, Man City didn't really create too much. De Bruyne had some crosses that were easily cleared away, and they had set piece chances that they definitely should have scored. But from open play, I thought Leicester played that game perfectly, and I think hopefully more teams can do that. I say hopefully because I don't have De Bruyne, I only have Foden. So hopefully De Bruyne blanks, and that's sort of my hopeful outlook, the fact that De Bruyne won't go out and get 20 points this game week like he easily could. Overall, I think I have some good matchups this week. I think my Wolves players might bounce back for me, and if I take a -4, I think it's got a okay chance of working out. So let me know who you've decided to bring in for Son. Have a good game week, just not as good as mine. Thanks for watching the video, and I will see you next time.
Ain't no cap in my crowd.